friends. Welcome to today's episode of We Are Marketing Happy, a healthcare marketing podcast. My name is Jenny Bristow. I am the host, and I'm also the CEO and founder at Hetty and Hop. We're a full service, fully healthcare marketing agency, and we're very proud to be the producers of this podcast. Today, I am joined with our very own director of paid media, Miranda. And we're going to be talking into some of the paid media trends that are happening in healthcare right now, especially as we're going into 2025. There's a lot of moving pieces, new platforms, lots of changes to existing platforms. So let's dig in. Miranda, to get started, I know that Nielsen released their annual marketing report, the 2024 report. I'd love if you can walk through some of the key insights and trends that Nielsen shared.
Sure. So every year, Nielsen releases these reports at the end of the year, just kind of what they've seen over the course of this past year, but as we're looking into the future. And it really helps paid media teams just truly understand what to kind of look out for, especially in our very fragmented media landscape. Things, to your point, are constantly changing. So we want to make sure we're staying abreast of all of the topics. So there were four key insights that we really pulled from that. Really, the first one being an increase in spending. I know there's been some pullback over the last couple of years on paid media budgets and how we're dispersing those funds and whatnot. But based on this report, a little over 70% of marketers are planning to increase their budgets, and a majority of that really being prioritized in digital channels, specifically social, but also the retail media network space, just from an effectiveness standpoint, really maximizing all levels of the funnel with that, whether you're in the awareness, you're in that interest phase, or if you're in the conversion phase. Speaking of conversion, the second key insight was really focused around performance marketing versus brand building. We as marketers always want to aim for that holistic ROI, but many have been prioritizing those short-term performance, which really leaves this opportunity and potentially misses for brands to do those brand building initiatives. So we really need to make sure we're focusing on both in that full funnel because we don't want to risk that. Really don't want to risk that long-term brand equity that brands take so long to build up, right? We don't want to miss those opportunities. From third key insight we found were just some media strategy challenges. To your point, the channels are constantly changing, targeting, especially in the healthcare space. We're really having to find this balance of traditional and digital media. But we need to truly understand what is optimal reach. What should we be under investing in, and really truly understanding what that balance is. And that all comes down to audiences and goals and how we're measuring them across the board, which leads into the fourth insight: measurement gaps. There are a ton of tools out there, and marketers really aren't utilizing tools that are evaluating both traditional and digital channels at the same time. It's very siloed of looking at traditional, very upper funnel, but knowing that they can trickle down into that lower funnel. And same on the digital side, really focusing on more bottom funnel. And that's really missing holistic insights. And, when you're looking at these effective media campaigns and strategies, especially around messaging and channel placement, you want to make sure you're looking at everything holistically and how everything is affecting one another.
Yeah, I will say those last 2 points, I feel we saw really strongly with a lot of our new clients coming over from working with other agencies, over reliance on digital and not really having a strong traditional media strategy in place, which at Hetty and Hop, we do both traditional and digital. So we're
Mhm.
able to really provide that holistic strategy for them. And then the lack of measurement and effective reporting is still something we're seeing every single day. Folks just aren't really receiving those comprehensive ROI reports to understand what impact their media is having for them. So,
Right. And with those reports, Jenny, you don't want to just do a data dump. You want to provide some actionable insights and recommendations of what we're seeing because, paid is only one piece of the puzzle, right? It can affect very many different things, right? So
yeah.
we want to make sure that we're using those advanced analytics, but also continuing forward with a diverse media mix and not just relying so heavy in one channel or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. The next topic I would love to talk about is TikTok. So, a lot of our clients and just in general, we were at Shishmid and HCIC, and we are just lots of chatter around folks beginning to use TikTok through the lens, of course, organic, content creation and posting, but really starting to start looking at the paid opportunities within TikTok. So I'd love if you could chat a little bit about the platform in general, and then also about their new partnership with Nielsen to enhance the cross media ad tracking capabilities.
Yeah. So, you know, TikTok is still relatively new in the social space, if you want to call it that. And that they are listening to the folks that are utilizing their platform, whether they're just scrolling for hours, engaging with content, or from the paid advertising side of it. Depending on kind of what video you want to put out there. You have the option to have a 6-second video, you have the option to have a 3-minute video, you have the option to have a 10-minute video. So it's really kind of dependent on, from an organic as well as paid, what kind of campaign you're going after and what kind of audience you're going after. Really love the adaptability of the platform as it continues to grow. Now, there still are some limitations specifically around targeting, especially in the healthcare space. But, just there's that overall privacy concern with TikTok, as well as there's still a new platform and trying to figure out those balances to remain compliant and whatnot. So, specific in healthcare, TikTok does have a role in health education. The hashtag health talk is a big one. I know that there's hundreds of millions, if not billions of views with that hashtag in place. So TikTok does trust influencers over medical professionals a little bit more, but that opens up that misinformation. And we really want to be mindful of that if that you are a brand that wants to move forward within the TikTok platform. Healthcare providers, so HCPs and their specialties, as well as pharmaceutical companies, are really leveraging TikTok. Because thinking of it potentially a little bit more upper funnel with that, just from the standpoint of educating and engaging audiences. They're making leaps. They're making giant leaps in how they do this targeting and whatnot. But from a healthcare standpoint and from a literacy standpoint in healthcare, we have to be really careful about the management to make sure it is that reliable information. So there's still this kind of like weird balance of, yeah, TikTok's a great platform, especially for millennial and Gen Z audiences, but also understanding to have a trusted professional and make sure that we're not pushing out misinformation.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of just general things I feel like we have to acknowledge. TikTok is still facing a potential ban in the United States
Yeah,
in
yeah,
January. Everything that I have read basically indicate that it won't be an overnight shutdown. But in general, our advice to clients has been to really leverage more bottom funnel tactics before you begin spending money on TikTok. So
yes,
TikTok definitely can
yes,
have a place in a strategy, but you need to
yes,
make sure that you're really capturing folks who are looking actively, for the services, the procedures, your specialty, and the areas that you provide before we start, digging into TikTok. And really also, we generally recommend that you need to have a strong content marketing strategy in place
yes,
holistically, and then
yes.
paid on TikTok can support that versus just moving forward with TikTok ads.
Right. And with the TikTok, from what we're seeing, audiences don't want to see like an overproduced message. They want it to feel very organic and just very natural, just not so overproduced, which is very different than what we see on CTV and linear and whatnot. So, truly understand that platform and those nuances, I would recommend before any kind of investment in TikTok, really having a clear content plan in place, because it's not just one video you have to put out there. It's multiple different videos, because with how consumers are consuming media, especially in TikTok and engaging with it, they want fresh messaging all of the time, which then goes into production. So it has a trickling effect when it comes to those ad budgets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love to move now to Google. So,
Okay.
Google is constantly evolving, constantly rolling out new products to be able to get all of us to spend more. I saw that for the first time, their search share of search ads is going to be dipping, I think it was below 50%. And let me pull this article up real quick. I want to make sure that I am referencing it correctly, but it's really gonna be dropping. So what they're actively trying to do is so let's see, it was Adweek launched an article, and they said that Google is going to be dipping below, 50%, as far as their share of the search advertising market in the US by 2025 for the first time in a decade. So they're kind of in hustle mode, right? Like, what can we do to innovate? What can we do to kinda get some of that market share back? I think it's interesting some of their AI powered results are beginning to compete with their search.
Mhm.
results. So the innovation they're doing for consumers is also hurting them on the search side because they're actually providing zero click content. So you can get that information without clicking through
Mhm.
to the person's website who provided that content. So one of the
Mhm.
things that they announced was an AI powered tool called Search Bidding Exploration as part of its smart bidding suite. And I'd love for you to tell us a little more about what we know about that so far.
Sure. So it's still, it's still in a testing phase, but it's interesting. AI is just really, you never know what you're going to get with all of these new AI tools coming in. So with this specific tool, it's part of their bidding suite, their smart bidding suite. So this is really designed to help those larger advertisers optimize campaigns towards TROAS. So obviously our return on ad spend, but specifically, there's this new phrase with the T in front of it. So that's adding the target return on ad spend, as well as those broad match keywords. So, the tool will identify low traffic, yet very valuable search queries. And then it adjusts that target row anywhere from 8 to 10%. And then it just kind of expands that reach beyond those traditional search terms. So it's opening an opportunity of things, we potentially missed in a strategy or agencies have potentially missed, whether it's content strategy, keywords, social listening. Are there certain things that folks are talking about that we might not have in messaging? Just really, truly understanding how it gives that opportunity to expand what's currently being searched for.
Yeah, and this is a trend that we've seen not only with our clients, but then also we heard lots of buzz about it at Shishmid and HCIC, is agencies seeing traffic volumes changing for
Hmm.
their search campaigns. So, for example, those bigger, broader buckets that are more educational and more upper funnel, less
Hmm.
traffic coming in there because folks don't have to click through to understand what a knee replacement
It's
surgery
right
is
there.
anymore.
It's right there in front of them.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a great reminder for folks that as they're thinking about their strategy for 2025, really make sure that you're beginning to incorporate some AIO, so AI optimization and old
Mhm.
kind of thing in SEO, but AIO into your overall strategy to really complement that media strategy. Because as we all know, everything works in cohesion together.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
so
just not a set it and forget it anymore.
definitely.
You just constantly have to be shifting and pivoting to see kind of what your consumers and whatnot are really going for when they're doing their searches,
Yeah.
what they're sharing, what they're engaging with. There are some concerns with this. It's restricted to advertisers with very large budgets. So if you have a $5,000, $10,000 a month, this might not be an option for you, but this is definitely some of those bigger ones, those bigger ad spends, as well as the concern just around transparency, as well as those very granular insights. To your point, folks are seeing performance dip, which goes into that larger concern of like, how can we optimize? How can we do X, Y, and Z? So, really, what is that balance as we implement this tool?
Absolutely. I'm saving our favorite for last, the one that everybody's freaking out about at us. But I have one other topic that I want to throw into the mix, and that's retargeting. And I've talked
Yeah.
about retargeting and through the lens of privacy. But for folks that have been ignoring those podcasts because they don't want to think about privacy, I'm going to mix it into this media conversation. So you're going to hear it. A general reminder that you can no longer do retargeting or remarketing based off of your website visitors. So we can do in platform retargeting if somebody has engaged with your ad within Google. You can retarget them in Google or within Facebook. You can retarget them using Facebook's own targeting platforms or targeting capabilities, but you can no longer put pixels on your website to target them if they visited your site and did not convert.
Yes. Just remarketing hurts
I
a little
know.
bit, but to stay compliant, it's what you have to do.
Yep, exactly. So if you're
Yeah.
still doing retargeting or remarketing, you need to cut it out. Stop
Yeah.
uploading lists,
Stop.
stop using
Stop.
retargeting pixels if you're in healthcare. General reminder.
Yeah.
Now I'd love to end talking about some shifts that we have seen with Meta. They're constantly changing. They were one of the main reasons all of the class action lawsuits happened around pixels and folks being accused of sharing data through the lens of considerations. So they're sharing user data with Facebook in return for receiving conversion information. Lots of podcasts on that. But Meta made an announcement that they are going to be really restricting a lot of data specifically for healthcare organizations starting in January 2025. Now, we are really excited about this because our clients aren't really going to be affected based off the way that we set up campaigns. But
Right.
I'd love if you could give a general overview of what the announcement was,
Sure.
and then why our clients don't really have anything to worry about.
Yeah. So Meta, I believe it came out about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. It's still very fresh. And I think to your point, folks are like, what are we doing? What is going on? What do we need to shift and whatnot? So I believe these restrictions are going to start January 2025. So 3 weeks. So it's coming quick. These changes are really going to include the data sharing for specific healthcare related websites and apps. So, fully restricted properties like condition specific sites will lose access to conversion campaigns. Mid restricted properties, are really facing limited optimization for those lower funnel activities. So, really anything that is mid low to low, we recommend rethinking, like, how are we going to utilize Meta within our strategy, because it really needs to be a little bit more. It doesn't need to be, it has to be more upper funnel. Really recommending as we move into 2025, those healthcare advertisers, whether it's the agency you work with, whether you're in-house, whatever that looks like, really advise to audit those data sources. We want to make sure that we're doing our checks and balances to make sure there are no pixels in place. Nothing of that lives on the site to remain compliant, and really adapting those strategies to focus on those privacy friendly methods.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the changes we made, what, a year ago? Or
Yeah.
the way that we
I think,
set up
yeah, yeah.
campaigns with Meta and why we're pretty confident that our client's in a great place going into 2025.
Yeah. So you never know what you're going to get thrown with some of these platforms. So, Hetty and Hop really took a proactive way of approaching how we're utilizing Meta, both Facebook and Instagram, in our strategies. And it is really focused on those upper funnel engagement metrics versus the lower funnel. We're really thinking awareness, really thinking engagement when we are utilizing those placements. So making sure we're tracking those metrics properly while completely having nothing to do with pixel placements on the website and whatnot. And if we see those through our audits, we're raising the flag of like, nope, we don't recommend using this. We're going to shift our focus here and really outlining those as we go through the media strategy, as we're walking through benchmarks, whether it is more a very upper CTR metric, whether it's a video view, or if it's just some kind of engagement within the ad itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the things they specifically call out is you can no longer do audience creations for retargeting or lookalike audiences. Thank goodness. We've been
Yes,
preaching this for so long. Like, we
yes,
shouldn't be
yes.
doing this in healthcare, friends, right? So I think the general summary is if you're using Meta and you haven't really thought about how you're using it, how you're tracking conversions, and you've kind of been on autopilot, now is the time that you need to really take a good look at your campaign, the structure, how you're tracking conversions, the kind of functionality that Facebook offers that you are or are not using to really make sure that you're going to be in a good place in
Yeah, because
2025.
they're either going to shut your campaigns down or not let you set them up at all. So it's better to be proactive. And so I know we're 3 weeks out to the new year, but really start thinking through that, immediately, as these are part of larger, strategy conversations that are starting in January.
And even thinking about worst case scenario, if you need to turn Meta off or plan on massively restricted spending for the first month or two
Yep.
as you really clean everything up in your account and set it, get it into a good place. It's better to be proactive and know that you're likely going to see
Yes.
massively reduced volume in Meta, than be midway through the month and start looking at reports and,
Right.
then be
And be just
surprised.
like, what is going on?
Yes.
Yeah, let's be 4 steps ahead and not six behind.
Exactly, exactly. Well, Miranda, thank you for coming on today. I think it has been every year in healthcare. Our one of our core values at Hetty and Hop is pivot with positivity because we're constantly throwing new things, which all of us find really fun. It's fun to find ways to continuously allow our clients to evolve, effectively reach folks that need that care and help them, find the resources that they need to be able to, schedule that appointment. So thank you for coming on today to be able to provide a summary of what folks can expect as far as 2025 media strategies. For listeners, if you are kind of unsure if the things you heard today are new to you, your internal team hasn't been talking about them, your agency hasn't been proactively bringing them to you, give us a call. Our media capabilities are one of our strongest within our organization, and we work with providers and payers all across the country to help them reach their acquisition goals. We'd love to chat with you. So, with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe this episode. Send future episode ideas my way if you have any. And we'll see you on a future episode of We Are Marketing Happy. Cheers.